There can be numerous reasons for someone in Ohio to have their wages being garnished. But do you have any options to stop it? Well, depending on your situation, sometimes having your wages garnished could put you in a financial hardship. For example, let's say someone makes the Ohio's minimum wage of $9.30 an hour, and now they're having their wages garnished for a $15,000 unpaid debt. That may be putting them into a hardship where they now are considering whether they need to file bankruptcy. And so with all that to say, that's what we're going to cover in today's video. Welcome to Ascend Finance's YouTube channel, where we cover wage garnishment in Ohio and help folks understand their options to resolve it. With that said, everyone's situation is unique, and we know that. And so we built a free Ohio wage garnishment calculator to help folks see what their options are to stop it, compare the pros and cons to each option, and estimate the cost based on their personalized data. My name is Justin, and I am one of the analysts here at Ascend. I speak with quite a few folks who are unfortunately facing a garnishment, and so I'd love to help you understand the process and options. In today's video, we're going to cover a few things. First, options to stop a garnishment. Second, Ohio wage garnishment laws. Third, wage garnishment process in Ohio. Fourth, steps to finding out who is garnishing your wages. So maybe you're not sure who's garnishing your wages. I can help you figure that out. And fifth, which option should you do? What's best? Before I dive into the different ways to stop a garnishment in Ohio, I wanted to say that if this video ends up being helpful, feel free to leave a like, as it's definitely encouraging for us to see, as well as if you end up liking this video and you want to see more videos like this, feel free to subscribe, as we're definitely trying to put new videos out weekly. Now let's get started. So as I said earlier, we understand that your situation is unique and you may be feeling overwhelmed. And one of the most important things is understanding how to stop it, as it can be debilitating. And so we built an Ohio wage garnishment calculator to help you understand, one, how much you may be garnished, or two, if you're currently being garnished, determining whether that's the correct amount. And so sometimes you may be already getting garnished and you're like, is this the right amount? This seems like a lot. And so we want you to be able to estimate. And finally, it helps you understand what the options to stop a garnishment there in Ohio. When it comes to stopping a garnishment, there are unfortunately a limited number of options, as the court at this point's already issued an order for the unpaid debt. However, there are options. So let's consider those. First, I want to talk about filing bankruptcy. Now, one option to stop a garnishment is bankruptcy. Now, there is the liquidation bankruptcy, known as Chapter 7, which can potentially provide immediate relief from a garnishment and any other unsecured debt that you may be facing. In order to file a Chapter 7, though, in Ohio, you do need to pass the means test. And so with the means test, there are income requirements based on your household size. And so right now I'm going to put on the screen what the current income limits are for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy in Ohio. And so you can see that it's based on the number of people in your house as the income goes up if you have more people in your household, of course. There are multiple parts to the means test just to be aware of. And so if you are seeing that you're above the threshold, you may actually still be able to qualify. What I would say is if you're either above the threshold or if you're looking for more up-to-date figures, or if you just want to see if you qualify, you can take our free Chapter 7 calculator. It'll help you estimate the qualification and cost. We built it kind of with the mindset that we want to be able to help you qualify or see if you can qualify for a 7 and what the cost would look like for your zip code and based on your personalized data. And so that's why we built it. And so you don't even need to add an email address to see what the results are, but you can if you want us to reach out. Now, the Chapter 7 filing fee in Ohio is $338, but you actually may be entitled to have it waived if you're under the fee poverty guidelines. And so I'm going to put that on the screen as well for Ohio. You can see based on the number of people, how the income respectively falls. So you can check that and see whether you may be able to have it waived. Now, if bankruptcy is not something you want to pursue, or it doesn't make sense to pursue, or you just want to try something first, you could try to file an exemption through the court. You can reach out to your local courthouse to see if you may be eligible for exemptions. For example, that could look like being eligible to file a head of household exemption, which may be able to limit how much they're able to withhold from your paycheck. And so look into that first if you'd like, or check that out if seeing maybe you're eligible. Now, I want to touch on the Ohio wage garnishment laws. In Ohio, there should be a limit on the amount of earnings that can be withheld from a single paycheck. Now, depending on the state, it's generally just based on disposable earnings. With that said, though, the wage garnishment amount in Ohio is based on the following. Wages and other property, including bank accounts, may be garnished. However, the 25% limit on garnishment of personal earnings continues even when the money is deposited into a personal checking account. We'll link some stuff in the description below so you can get more information on that, but that's for the most part the garnishment laws. So now that we've covered that, I want to kind of help you understand the steps and the process behind a wage garnishment. Now, when it comes to a wage garnishment, the actual process of it really depends on the type of debt actually being collected, as there's actually potentially specific procedures for garnishing someone's wages for, child support or spousal support, virtually compared to maybe like credit card debt. So with that all said, though, the process is generally similar across the board for collecting unpaid unsecured debt. So let's kind of get into what the process looks like for reaching at, a wage garnishment for something like that. Now, the first thing they're going to have to do is most likely obtain a judgment against you. And so wage garnishments don't happen overnight, right? And so fortunately, there are checks and balances put in place to protect both the debtor and the creditor from doing anything with ill intent. So if you are facing a garnishment from, let's say, the federal government, maybe for like an unpaid student debt, the process may look a bit different, as they may not need to actually have a court order to withhold your earnings, but nevertheless, let's focus on, regular traditional unsecured debt. So the first step to obtaining a judgment is through a debt collection lawsuit. So the creditor will need to properly serve you for any unpaid unsecured debt. So that's going to probably include credit cards, medical bills, and personal loans, payday loans, of course, and things of that nature. So once you've received the summons, you should see a few things. First, the facts of the case, right? And so you should see a summary of the law, the description of the debt, and the exact amount that you owe. And so most times you should actually have about 30 days to respond, but it should state what that is on the summons. Now, let's say, the creditor has enough documentation to provide sufficient proof, right? And so they have enough proof that you owe the debt. The court now may issue a default judgment. So with the judgment, though, the creditor now has the choice to whether they want to pursue further legal action by maybe requesting a wage garnishment order. So that is the next step here in the process, is actually obtaining a wage garnishment order. So now that we've actually touched on what it looks like to obtain a judgment, I want to kind of go through what the next step of it looks like and kind of what it looks like to obtain a wage garnishment order. So as I just alluded to, with the judgment, the creditor is now able to potentially request a wage garnishment order. So here's what that looks like. The first thing is the creditor is going to request a writ of execution from the court. The next thing is there's going to be a garnishment packet served to your employer. Now, once the employer has received the garnishment packet, you may actually start to see your wages being garnished. Probably, in the first paycheck you've received 10 days after the service. So once your employer has received the garnishment packet, you may actually start to see your wages being garnished in the first paycheck you receive. That's about 10 days after the date of being served. And so your employer may need to provide you with a copy of the garnishment order. And so you should be able to challenge this order, but you may only have around 10 days to ask for any potential exemptions. Now, sometimes folks are not even aware that they are being garnished, who's garnishing, or what the balance is for, and for many, many reasons, unfortunately. So before I go too much further, I want to help you figure out where to go if you either don't know who's garnished your wages or you're not sure the balance they're garnishing you for. I've actually spoken with more and more folks who have unfortunately been caught off guard by a recent garnishment from their wages. Most times they're first hearing about it from being notified by their employer, or they just noticed a portion of their paycheck was being taken out. And so if you do fall into this category, I want to help you understand a few simple steps that may help you actually answer those questions and get a little bit more understanding. Of course, if you already know who's garnishing your wages and the total balance, feel free to skip to the next part here, more covering your options to resolve it as well that I touched on earlier. But if you don't know who's garnishing your wages or what the balance is, here are some steps to take if you need more information. So one step could be, it's depending on everyone's situation, but one step could be reaching out to payroll and seeing if they have any information on who submitted the garnishment order. Most likely them or someone within your employer has information or the documents that they were served. Now, once you know who is garnishing your wages, you should be able to call them directly to get the information on the balance. So once you have an idea of the law firm that's handling the account, you could potentially reach out to them and get an idea of the balance, when it started, how much they want, if there's any offers to resolve. Or if that doesn't work for any reason, you could potentially reach out to the courthouse and see if they're able to look up your case. If you call the local courthouse, they may have the case information regarding the judgment and the garnishment issued. Of course, there's no promises on any of these, but those could be options to explore. Now, if both of those options don't work, you may be able to check your credit report and see if there's any outstanding debts that it may be in relation to. So if you have a medical bill from 4 years ago that is in collections and you haven't paid on it and your wages are being garnished, and you look in the credit report and you see there's a medical bill in the collections, well, it could be that, but those are things to check out. Now, the multiple question here is, which options should you do? Now, with all that to say, ultimately it's up to you. However, I would encourage you to take our wage garnishment calculator, as that'll help you compare your options, the cost, the pros and cons to handling a potential garnishment. As I do understand that it can be overwhelming, you're always welcome to give us a call or text at 833-272-3631, and we'd be happy to chat through your situation. I do hope that this video was helpful, but if you do have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment down below, as I am sure there are others with a similar question. We will do our best to get back to you as soon as possible. However, thanks so much for watching, and I'm always here if you have any questions.